Would 6:30 be okay?
Alright, 6:30 probably works better for me.
Okay, and it works better for Carrie. And you're okay with it, and Charlie's okay with it, and I'm okay with it. So, should we have our next meeting at 6:30 and then post it that way, or should we wait till the beginning of the year?
If I didn't see a conflict, I
Okay.
had that, but. We didn't lose Charlie, I just pulled up my, it just came, he can still see us,
Yeah.
so. Next month, it looks like it's the 12th. And there's no conflict,
Okay.
and there
But-
usually isn't. Delay of demolition will just have to slide in around us.
Okay,
They meet monthly based on whether they have applications. or
Okay.
not.
right,
So, just,
all right, so we'll have a motion about that during the meeting.
okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order because we do have a quorum. Have you all read the minutes? Are there any corrections or additions?
I had just a clarification, Michelle, maybe you could. When,
Where?
under business, B, I, and there are a whole bunch of items here. But number 4, Michelle shares the ordinance for the fund. The fund in this case is the housing trust, right? Is that what you're?
No, this is the affordable housing fund here in the town that gets funded every year. Well,
If we request it.
we have to request it, but yes, we have a fund here in the town. An ordinance, did do I have a copy of the ordinance? It's online, did you want to see it?
No, I can go find it.
Okay.
At my leisure. Okay, thank you. That,
Sure. Let's see, so that was unclear. So the only, I mean, only the town would have an ordinance for the fund, the trust. Doesn't have an ordinance, a town ordinance, so
you're right, yeah.
to me, that seems clear, but certainly.
Yes, it is.
If somebody wants to.
Okay, are there any other comments about the minutes? I can't see Charlie. Did we miss him? Lose him? Okay. I want to get this. I want to give you. Yes. I need this. Okay. So about the, the multifamily housing. The multifamily housing committee that we had. And God bless you again.
Judy,
Sorry, I'm having such a hard time with the Wi-Fi. I've moved to a good spot.
Okay, good.
Judy,
Carrie?
do we need to vote on the minutes?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, all
I hope
those,
they're accepted.
Okay.
all right, and second, all those in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye,
Did you get a copy of them, Charlie?
I did. I looked through them.
Okay, good, all right. Okay, so the multifamily housing draft the final draft went to the planning commission, and I guess they had a lot of questions about it. So what I just passed out and I'm sorry, Charlie, you don't have it, but, because I just got a memo from, Janet Hill, regarding, actually, she had read in the Voices, a report on the meeting. She had not, I guess she had not been at the meeting, I hadn't been at the meeting. Were you at the planning commission meeting by any chance? No,
I was.
you, were, okay. So she had some questions about it. So what I just handed out was the minutes as, that were on the, website of the planning commission. And part of that is the discussion referral from the Washington Zoning Commission, revision to zoning regulations and that discussion. And the second thing that I handed out was the, report in the Voices that Ann Jameson, who's actually the other reporter, had, written about it. And Janet was concerned after having read the report. And so then she had a response and I asked her if I could share, she has not sent this, I don't think yet, to, or she may have, to the planning commission, but I asked her if I could share this with this commission. So, you know, this is just the information, the responses, the reports. And I think that we need to, to consider these, these things, but we don't need to talk about it tonight necessarily, unless you think we should.
Well, I wrote a response.
Yes, I know, and I didn't copy your response.
Well, it was a waffling response because what Janet wrote is terrific. She's just on top of it.
She is very on top.
But I did have access. I didn't see the Voices and I don't have a subscription to that.
So you have.
But
that
I
in
have
there.
the minutes. Yeah, I see it
Yeah,
now.
all right.
And I haven't read it yet, but it seemed inappropriate to respond to a newsletter article rather than the minutes. And when I looked at the minutes, it just appeared to me that the planning commission was just getting their feet wet,
Yeah.
and well, look at this and look at that. And what would really be important would be to have Janet and perhaps one or two others of us on that subcommittee
Yes,
at their next meeting
Definitely.
to interpret this stuff,
yeah,
rather than sending Janet's opus, which
So,
I think
I don't know whether she
might
did
be a
it.
little overpowering and possibly even be resented.
Judy?
yes,
I would, having not read all of this, I would just say the overarching feeling that planning had,
yeah, because you were there.
that was sort of there, was that while they understood a lot of the restrictions, the setbacks, the whatnot, they didn't feel that those were appropriate for the very small projects, for a single, a house that's being turned into 2 units or
Right.
3 units, right? That should just be treated like a single family home, and we shouldn't put up these barriers and make it so hard. Let's say somebody's got their own house and they want to create an apartment for their in-laws, or they wanna move into the apartment, they're downsizing themselves. They wanna move into the apartment and rent a bigger part. They didn't feel that something like that should have to meet the same kind of design elements that a 12-unit project would. Which seems reasonable, so that was kind of the crux, and so they went through point by point. They're like, oh, wait a second, again, this seems restrictive, but it makes sense for the big ones and maybe not for the small ones. And they kind of talked about, well, it's up to the zoning to figure out where to draw that line. Is that 4 units, is it 6? But we can all envision a single family home that is divided up into just several units and it not disrupting the neighborhood in any way. And they felt that there were too many hoops for somebody trying to just maybe turn their house into a duplex so that they can downsize themselves. You know, they shouldn't have to go through this many regulations and anything just special permits in place. So that was just kind of the overarching, and then, but yeah, they did go through, I've got it. They spent a lot of time, it was a long meeting,
Mhm.
went through each point. Very carefully, and, yeah,
All the more reason to have a few of us invited to the next meeting,
yeah, I
or
didn't know it
conversation.
was, I didn't know it was gonna be on the agenda, but I guess because planning has to weigh in before so the public hearing is January 8th. And it was forwarded to planning, I believe. We should check with Wayne or Shelley, it's gonna be on their next agenda as well, so this was like a first look at it, and they kind of went through, read each section, and talked about it. Because I think the planning commission needs to make a recommendation on any zoning change, just like the COG and all the other governing bodies need to weigh in.
So when is the next planning commission meeting?
They are the first Wednesday of every month, so
Okay.
that would be whatever that first Wednesday is.
I won't speak for you, Judy,
Yes.
but I do feel, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer as far as these refinements of setbacks and, all of that. I mean, Janet and Nick,
They've been through it for years.
so I'm not necessarily volunteering to go myself, but I was happy that we were on that subcommittee and brought the spirit of this larger group to it.
Yes.
I think we did.
And one of the questions for affordable housing was it fair that, you know, you would have to have 10% of it, of any project? Even if it was only, if you only get a two multifamily homes, that it would have to be, you know, 10% and whatever the lease was, so that would be that at least one of them would have to be. So I think that was a problem for them, yeah, I think they had a review.
Which,
And we talked about that, certainly we talked about that at the meeting, at our meeting, at the, you know, the subcommittee. Yeah. I'll tell you, we spent a lot of time and had lots and lots of discussion, for sure. But, you know, definitely I'm happy input, because we definitely want this to be supported, so we want the planning commission to be on board, correct?
Need them, yeah.
So are you gonna be setting aside any time where you go through them with the housing commission?
Say that again, Henrietta?
Maybe setting aside any time to go through them with the housing commission, because, you know, those of us that haven't been involved are kind of in the dark. We have no idea what's on them.
Okay, so I guess we could send a copy of the draft to you.
Right, because in the end, it's gonna be the housing commission that's gonna have to defend this. When you think about it, not zoning.
Yeah.
and I'm glad you brought that up. I went through, I gave a challenge to Oscar, the intern, who's been working on this, and said, so I had draft 10 at that point. And it's what, 10 pages? And I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
okay, we need a 1-page summary so we can talk to people about this, because this is really hard to talk to people about. And so we kind of went through, he got it down to 1 page, but it's not completely accurate, and didn't always understand. And I was a little confused, and so then with draft 11, I was there with planning, and that really helped clarify. It just takes,
And maybe the committee.
It's tedious, but
Can you
Yeah,
make sure that Oscar sends a copy, or you send a copy
well,
of
it's
what?
not really accurate yet.
What it is, before we
Yeah,
send it.
yeah, we didn't have time, we were gonna, yeah, but, absolutely, because that was to help aid housing commission to talk
Yeah.
about it, but. It's hard, it's too many.
And we probably need the whole document,
Yes,
so that we.
I'll have a copy sent to everybody here, okay? Okay, does anybody want to bring anything else up about that? All right, so the second thing under old business is the Baldwin Hill project, and Bill Fairburn is here to give us an update.
Okay, first off, I think this is the first time I've been here. I've talked with Judy, but to thank you for the money that you gave us to do the survey and the engineering, which is critical to get this project done. So quick update, we filed, the survey was done, we got, the engineering done for the property, for the septic system and everything. We filed an application for a grant. It's called the Housing Tax Credit Contribution, HTCC, the acronym. And there were 4 properties in Litchfield County that applied for these funds, which are based on a point system. You get points, if you have transportation, municipal water and sewer. So of the 4 applications, the only one that qualified for the funding was one in Norfolk because they had municipal water and sewer. So, the other 3 of us, I think one in Salisbury and maybe Goshen. So we met, I think Judy and Michelle, we were at the meeting, the annual meeting of, that they had, the housing co-op in there. Warren, so they're working on putting the 3 of our projects together as one that would go to the Department of Housing to see if, in fact, there would be enough, enough units or whatever to justify giving us some money. So we're in the process of they're trying to work up an application form for this, because this is something very different than what they have, for the normal funds. So what we're doing on a parallel track is the building committee of the housing trust is Ted Bent and Brad Sedito, who was Russell City construction company. Brad's does all the estimating and calculating expenses. So we have, in fact, we have one last meeting, hopefully get done early next week. But taking the proposal from Sagala, who's the modular housing contractor, and come up with a final number. And then what we'd like to do with that then is go and have a meeting with, representatives of the Board of Selectmen, maybe Board of Finance, but obviously you all know about the affordable housing plan, and there's 30 units by 2027. And so we need to have a discussion with the town. What is their contribution going to be to build these 30 units? So, clearly, that they always use the model of the 3-legged stool, that calls for financing from, hopefully, town is a party to it, we're a party to it, and we're going to give private donations. So what we hope to do is to, and I've talked with Judy about this, but is to go set up a meeting with, the Board of Selectmen or with First Selectmen, whatever works, to discuss what the town's plan is. That it says they want 30 units. So what is their contribution? What would their contribution be to this particular 1 unit thing? And then what I've done is backed out of whatever the cost of this is, backed out what the sales price of the unit would be, which will be the minimum of 180, but it could, I think, based on the area, 80% of area median income, it would be up to 190 or a little more. Back that out, and then take whatever the town's contribution is, and then go meet with some of the folks in town who have been very generous to a number of different things in town, including the housing trust, and see if we can get the money that way to do it. So that's sort of where we're at. So I will be in touch with Judy once we have the final number on,
and then we're gonna meet.
what's going to cost to build this house. And then meet with the town to see what they might recommend as a contribution, which would have to go to the town. And then, we'll proceed to, seek out private donations, get their balance, at least to get
This, at least one of them done.
Yeah, on a parallel track with whatever the Department of Housing is going to, work up in terms of possible ability to access funds that they have.
Yeah.
So.
Bill, what, did she give you a timeline? Because Celia made it seem like she was good for that, but did she have a timeline?
What timeline for?
For the combined project of
Yeah,
Baldwin and the other 2 houses, like she was sort of implying that she was gonna fund it.
I talked with Lindsay Larson, who's at the, the housing, and I guess they're in the process of working on it, but,
Okay,
things don't necessarily always work fast, as you know, in government, when we did the Vincent Farm. I'll always remember, I got a letter on my birthday, March 9th, and saying that we're giving you $480,000, but we didn't get it for 4 years. And unfortunately, the price of everything went up and we had to scramble to get the funds, so. I think there's a new, the new Commissioner of Housing is a great advocate and is really.
She talks a good story.
Yeah, and I think she's pushing to get, in fact, I did before I retired from the New Samaritan Corporation, I got a $4.6 million grant from HUD to build the senior housing project there, which is in the process of being finished. And again, HUD delayed getting us the money, so we were short like $1.6 million. And, we met with the Department of Housing and they were very quickly gave us $1.6 million to complete
Excellent.
a 22-unit housing project. So I have great confidence in the
This-
commissioner's ability to,
Yeah,
she talked about getting these funds out, it's spent in 2 years.
Right.
So I'm counting.
I was just gonna also remind everyone that there is money in the housing
Yeah.
fund
yeah, that we,
currently.
Yeah, and
so
so
we
I
have to
think,
wait till we.
yeah, and I did read, the newspaper, I do read the Voices and which is very, I think, yes, and I love the Voices, thank God.
Yeah.
Something I
Thank,
did.
yeah, thankfully.
And I did see Judy about, the talking to the selectmen about using the conveyance tax funds, which I thought was an excellent idea. And then I saw that there was a meeting between the Board of Finance and the selectmen about, maybe, particularly as far as we're concerned, we don't care where the money
I
comes
know.
from, as long as we can get it, so. But I
Yeah.
gathered the input from the town is crucial to then one. They kept talking with a few people with deeper pockets.
Yeah, so I've had a conversation with some folks with deeper pockets who I've worked with on open space things at Steep Rock. And I hope, I was encouraged by some of the conversation
Yeah.
we've had, so but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think we need to get the message out to the, to the public that not only for this project, but for the future projects, we need money.
Yeah,
And we need the town to invest in it. One of the things that, we were gonna figure out is how much 1 mil generates, and I don't know what that
Well,
is. I wasn't able to.
I met with Ted Bennett yesterday on some other housing trust issues. And
Okay.
Ted's on the thing, and I said, Ted, what's, 1 million? He said, I don't know, but it's simple. All you have to do is look at what the grand list is and multiply it by.
Yeah, when we figured it, I think it's just shy of $1 million, it's like 900 and something thousand.
1 mil with a $1.2 billion grand list will be 1.2 million.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we'll generate that. So I think that, I'm hoping the conversation, we have a great affordable housing plan, which you guys all put together. And, then it's a matter of, what will the town, legislative body support?
Well, and ultimately, it's the town's people who will
Well, I always
support it, or are they gonna support the budget?
Well, I
That's the
always-
thing.
quote Abraham Lincoln, who said that public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. So, if the people in town recognize that, based on the demographics that have been provided by the state, that the town's full-time population is going to shrink by 28% by 2040. It's going to be, I think it's 2,450 full-time residents versus 3,500, and what's the impact on, institutions in town,
Services,
schools, the fire department, the ambulance? At some point, people are gonna have to decide, is this a good investment? Do we want, I don't know, I appreciate, you guys don't.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Any other questions for Bill? comments?
And just one other thing, Judy, which I have shared with you, but will keep that.
Yeah,
But that, you know, we're looking to hopefully get a significant donation of land here in the next few months that will, you know, I will be coming back to you with
well,
on my knees begging to do, you know, the survey is done, but I'll need money for engineering. And that I hope will be sort of a litmus test for, you know, where the town wants to go in terms of the plan they've
Yeah.
adopted. So
excellent,
we'll look to see what happens.
okay.
Judy, I have a quick question, and I'm still a novice at this, so excuse me if this is a kind of a stupid question, but it's clear that the state, through legislation, has made it very obvious the direction they want all the towns in Connecticut to go to when it comes to housing, to affordable housing. And my feeling has always been that every town has to have the attitude that if we don't do it, the state will, and they'll take it out of our control. Now, I don't know if that's valid or not, mainly because I don't know what would be entailed if a town doesn't accomplish what the state requires it to do. What are the consequences? What can the state do to that town? Can they take over that process and say, okay, you haven't built it, we will?
Well, you know what people forget, Charlie, is that towns are not sovereign. Towns are political subdivisions of the state. So that, you know, we exist because the legislature says we exist. I mean, you know, they're the ones that set, you know, what the zoning laws, what you can do, the parameters for all these things. The schools, so the state, you know, in the last few years, the most of the state money on housing has been focused on the you know, transportation corridors. So, you know, they built another rail line from New Haven all the way back up to Hartford. You know, they have trains now running regularly there. They're building stations along that line. You know, so that most of the money has been focused on, you know, areas where there's available transportation for people, but, you know, I mean, the state can do whatever it wants. I mean, you know, they can come in and, you know, tell the town that, you know, you're not gonna be able to do this or that. Highly unlikely that they would because of the politics, trying to get something like that through, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
Well, I would also say based on what Mascaruno, that's her full name, Commissioner
Yes, and the Mascaro,
Mascaro, they're not gonna come in and, the state's not gonna come in and build affordable housing in Washington.
absolutely.
We need septic, we need wells, it is too complicated, too, like, there's 830G where if you don't have 10% of affordable housing, then it allows builders to circumnavigate some of the zoning laws, but besides that, the state's not gonna come in and build it. And this isn't where they're looking, we're looking at the transportation corridors.
Yeah, and most of the money, you know, we applied for community development block grant for, and thank you, Michelle, for your work on that too. For Dodge Farm, and most of the money, we had 2 applications, but it went to the state sponsored housing, which, you know, if you read in New York, you know, the New York Housing Authority, they need like $36 billion to fix up all their housing, but we could use like half a billion or a little more, but you know, it's just not there. But just, you know, just a little history too, is that, you know, the way we did the Vincent Farm was I used 830G to subdivide that into 3 lots. I mean, that was 1 lot under zoning. You couldn't do anything more with that. And I was able to use 830G because we could, you know, I forget how many bedrooms we got, but we decided to do it as just 3 lots that were pretty much 1 acre each, which was what zoning was prior to the soil-based zoning. And, you know, so, I mean, that one of the vehicles the state has put out there is, you know, so
To
basically,
allow it.
yeah, I mean, what 830G does, it removes you have no zoning regulations when it comes to 830G. The only things that are affected are public health and transportation. And so there's an incentive there for the towns to come up with multifamily
Yeah.
regulations and things that can,
So,
you know.
so Phil, so what you're saying, at least the way I understand it, is that the law basically is aspirational and that there are no consequences if you don't meet the requirements of the law.
Yeah, I always, my analogy to this is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You know, the Declaration of Independence was that all men are created equal. And then the Constitution said that, you know, slaves are only 3/5 of people for, you know, so I mean, it's, you know, it's, all that is aspiration.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
And our town is gonna, face the consequences of not having volunteers, not having enough workers,
yeah, and I
not
think,
having enough students in our schools.
No, I understand, yeah, I understand that, Judy. I was just trying to maybe develop some kind of angle that would put a different sense of urgency on the whole concept of housing. And my initial feeling was, hey, if we don't do it, somebody else will, and we will lose control over it. But that
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be the consequence that would occur.
well, what's interesting is where 830G has really, you know, come into play is down, you know, in Fairfield County, where you have, you know, the real estate's much more valuable than, you know, what we have here, although not by much. But what the developers there are doing, you know, 30% of the units have to be affordable, and of that 30%, half have to be at 60% of area median and half at 80%. So I'm sure you've seen, there's been articles in the New York Times and whatever, you know, about, you know, how Darien and some of these other communities are just, you know, fighting the developer comes in with no zoning regulations, you know, you really have no control anymore. So it's sort of in our towns, you know, incentive is to meet that, you know, 10%. And I think, Chris, what is it? You get 4%, you get 2%, you get 4%, you get a 4-year.
If you get to 2%,
You
you
get
get a
4 years.
4-year moratorium. If you get to 4%, then you can get another 4-year
Yeah.
moratorium, et cetera.
So, I mean, I mean, what's great is, you know, that all of you worked on the affordable, you know, housing thing that was passed. You know, you did a great job, and it's just a matter of sort of now getting people to grasp what the consequences are.
Yeah,
You know, how it affects all the institutions in town. You know.
so we're trying to do that, you know, like with various things like at the Harvest Fest, which is our next. Oh, no, the town conveyance space, but we'll leave that, but the Harvest Fest, you know, we had a booth there. I wasn't there because I was away. You were there.
Yeah.
And Henrietta, you were there, and you were there, the three of you were there. So how did that go?
I think towards, I don't know when you were there, but you know, there was some interest, like from some people. But a lot of people just sort of ignored it, you know, unfortunately, around me when it's not right, I mean,
Yeah, I had the first shift to do.
yeah.
We didn't get a whole lot of traffic. But the booth on kind of either side had activities and games, and we're kind of drawing people in that
Oh.
way, so that might be a tactic, but the cookies were a huge hit.
Yeah, the cookies. Terrific. Well, it just,
There were
So
six,
we're just trying to get, you know, the word out about the situation and what we need to do and.
yeah, and the need is great. I mean, I get calls from, you know, in fact, I have to call a young person back tomorrow. It's left a message on my phone that people are looking for housing rental and for, you know, single family homes. And it's really, I call it, so back in 2011, the state came up with a big bonding project for affordable housing. And I testified in front of the legislature on the need for it and put together, and this was just on senior housing, a paper called The Quiet Crisis Senior Housing, which referred back to a congressional set, had been back in the 60s, but you know, just what the need is. But that was just senior housing, but you know, it's crazy for young people. It's
It is. And we have helped some people in town,
yeah.
and Habitat for Humanity has helped some
Yeah.
people.
So,
And, yeah, so what we need to get the word out, you know,
well,
even
hopefully,
more.
hopefully that, you know, we can get, you know, as Charlie said, the you know, the affordable housing plan is aspirational, and hopefully we can, you know, put that into concrete terms to sort of realize some of some of the things we're aspiring to. So,
Yeah, and, you know, one of the things, let's see, the housing affordability summit. Yeah,
That was the one
that was the one that we went to up in, Warren, right? Yeah.
and the Department of Housing just had last week, they had the first. The Partnership for Strong Communities used to do an annual thing for affordable housing, whatever. Or not partnership, it was a group that no longer exists, but the Department of Housing started that up, so. You know, Governor Lamont was there and spoke, and they had breakout sessions. The one I went is, which I think is very interesting, could be very helpful to us. CHAP has got time to own, and they're
Right.
doing things where if you're, you know, like a first time home buyer, you can get up to $50,000.
Yeah.
You know, towards the down payment, closing costs and things like that. Now, it's limited amount of money, so. But, you know, so the state is realizing, you know, that, you know, what we're talking about pretty much impacts everywhere in the state.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's because I'm on this commission, but it seems like there's lots of information out there about affordable housing. Not just here in our town or our state, but you know, our country, the world. I mean, there just isn't enough affordable housing. People don't have a place to live. That's, you know, that's comfortable and safe.
Was just, you mentioned a time to own and, well, and I brought the flyers that we had at the harvest, just in case you guys wanted to see, but the, Housing Development Fund that does the down payment assistance program that I think they work with CHAPA. And they have a time to own is like part of the packet, like they'll look to see if you're a good candidate, so you can group our down payment assistance with other programs out there.
Well, that's
which
one
is
of the
great.
one of the questions I asked at this breakout session was, I said, you know, my town has a provision where you can get $10,000. Where's that? I mean, would that, if they got 50,000 from you, would that be used to offset? Instead, no, you can layer on. So, I mean, so the potential would be to
And
get
it's-
60.
Yeah.
And it's great because that Housing Development Fund people, they know the different programs and products that are out there, so they can help. And because they have to do the 8 hours of training, so they advise them, you know, it's not like they just sign up and they send
Right.
them on the way. So hopefully they're, you know, there's income restrictions, so hopefully, you know, they're helping them find those products.
Right.
Well, one of the things that was passed out at the summit was this publication that the Salisbury community put out about housing. And what they did was they have a lot of interviews with people who have benefited from the
Yeah, it's a great,
affordable housing.
yeah, I've actually read it. It's
It
very
is
inspiring.
it's inspiring, and I think it should inspire us to do something.
I took
similar to
an
that.
armload of those to St. John's Church last Sunday,
Okay, yeah.
where I preached at both services about affordable housing.
Wow.
And they were snapped up like hotcakes. They all took them all away, so.
That's excellent.
And Ted Bent, who's on the trust, was there and helped me out. We surrounded people. I think we really got a
So that was the first time you had talked about it there, right?
there.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Well, the fact that it gave me the pulpit itself, I was able to be more of a stem winder, you know, rather than just dart in and out. And I felt I was very hospitably received and listened to. In fact, they invited me into the vestry meeting, which was happening after the second service, and I gave a little added punch there.
Great. I just think the more people that hear it from us, you know, from anybody,
Right.
the better off we'll
Yeah,
be.
one of the things that I always sort of shake my head at is that, you know, if we have a child that goes K through 12, you know, at current, you know, per pupil, we're spending about $400,000 to $500,000 investing in creating these wonderful little human beings, and then they can't live here and contribute anything back to the community that we invested $500,000 in. It's sort of like,
That's a great way of looking at it.
That is really.
And there's all different angles of looking at it. That's great. That's
well, you
great.
know what, I was talking to someone, they were talking about, well, you own the farmland, I'm going, look, you know. The reason there, when I came back here, moved here in 1962, I think there were 30-something farms, they're all gone.
Yeah,
And, you know, the most important crop we have is like young people. You know, giving them,
Yeah.
you know, a great education, and, you know, civic responsibility, and so I probably gotta get a home. I think that's supposed to be home, basically. Anything more you don't want to know. When I start digressing, Judy, you have
No.
to give me a.
okay, no. But your information is always very
Yeah, and
helpful,
I'll
so I
try to come to
appreciate
some
it.
of your I'll try to come to your meetings on a regular basis and just update you on.
That would be great.
on, you know, what we're doing and,
We could put you at the beginning of the meeting, then you can just, you know, get out, get out,
I'm
get
at
home.
the end of the meeting for story time.
Chris and I lie to be who's the worst digresser. When we get people, when we get together to talk, people are worried that one of us is gonna die from natural causes. Thank you again.
Well, thank you, you
for all
know,
that you've done.
but thank you for what you do, Bill.
Well, you know, it's,
God,
you know,
and you've been doing it for so long.
well, you know, I worked as a lawyer setting these up, and I worked doing, you know, the Kent affordable housing. I did the South Common project with them, and, you know, worked on stuff in Litchfield, and then 18 years at New Samaritan, where we built, you know, the greatest project we had, there was 118 single family homes that we did in Walcott that are set up the same way as Vincent Farm.
Wow.
You know, that have retired ministers, a lovely retired minister, single moms with kids, and, you know, it's just, and it's a great, you know, it's like that sense of community that you get, you know, when you can,
Yeah,
you know, have people close by. So anyhow, off I go.
thank you, Bill,
Thank
thank you so much. Okay,
From the summit, I was just gonna add,
Okay.
they had the rest, like after that night, they had some workshops. And I attended the recruiting and onboarding new members from housing nonprofits. Which we talked about, like trying to help the trust
Yes.
kind of use, and so a couple of things that they talked about being important, and then I thought also just some interesting ideas. But they talked about, looking at the board and looking at the talents and figuring out where their holes were, like what you need. Do you need a realtor? Do you need a lawyer? Do you need a builder? Do you need, you know, like kind of skills? So that at some point maybe we could work with the trust to try to see, well, and the commission, I know you had mentioned.
well, definitely a real.
A realtor would be really great.
Yeah,
Another thing they talked about was someone to attend meetings. And this just kind of came up of the other commissions, so like somebody going to zoning, or somebody going to planning, or somebody going to selectmen. I mean, it's,
and then reporting back, so
Yeah.
that not all of us are going to all of them, or one
right,
of us is going to all.
I mean, I guess if if something from housing is actually on the agenda, I think everybody who. That would wanna go, I guess we just need to keep our eyes open for those agenda items. And they talked about making flyers, saying, hey, we need you, like those recruiting flyers to actually recruit for the groups. And then I just thought it was really interesting that some of the groups are large enough to actually have subcommittees. You know, so I think it was like maybe Ken was talking about, they have property development, communications, governance, management, like all these subcommittees, but what they
To the
did talk.
commission or for the nonprofit?
For the nonprofit,
yeah.
the nonprofit. But one thing I thought that was interesting is they talked about there are possibly people out there who are interested in housing, but don't want to commit to being a board member of the trust or a member of the commission. Right, that's either too scary or too much commitment, but might serve on a subcommittee that is communications, that fill out the flyers, or you know, some kind of property development, like they just wanna work on plans, like they don't wanna come down, they don't wanna do the politics, they just really.
They just wanted one aspect of it.
Right, so I thought that was maybe something interesting to have sort of start developing a list of.
Needs,
Yeah, needs and people who might be interested in assisting once you have this or this or this, depending on what it is. And I would also mention just from the Harvest Fest that some emails were collected, I have that list. Most of them just have to be put on an email list for information.
okay,
But there's one person here who said they wanted to get involved.
There was one person that, I know that talked to. What's his name?
Oscar,
I
She was like the first person.
Carol.
on this,
Yeah, so I had him write a little note next to each one. This one wants to get involved, that one wants to be on an email list, and the rest were.
Can you-
the email
can you-
list.
and you,
Yeah, I'll give
send
it
that
to
to me?
you, or I'll make
All right.
copy and give it to you, so. I haven't had really, I hadn't
Yeah.
really had a chance to look at it, and I just had him write down. What people said,
Right.
yeah,
And there was a state legislature. on the
Yeah.
list Who also wanted us to keep. Open talk.
cool, Christian McCarthy.
From the Fairfield County.
Is that, I didn't know, it didn't say where, it just said it was state rep, and the email is
from
a.
where? Fairfield?
Fairfield County, and I think she worked on some of the housing regulations.
Oh, cool.
So she might be a good person.
Yeah, well, or.
But she doesn't live in town.
Well, I mean, just for kind of like a expert.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that,
One of the signees was the administrator of the trust.
Anne Marie Obit, yeah, and I ended up chatting with her, because I had
Did
been
you? Okay.
meaning to, I remember ages ago. So the Litchfield County Housing for Opportunity put together, they did a workshop, which I know a bunch of us attended, about. How to raise money for the trust. And the first thing was setting up online giving, which I asked them to do months and months ago. And so I asked her about that, and she said, oh, talk to the accountant, and they're trying to figure something out, so.
so they're talking about it.
They're
At
talking
least they're
about
talking
it, at least they're talking about it, they weren't against it, she just needed to verify a few things, so. I was glad to run into her, but yeah, she signed up as well, and I think I gave her some of the trust pamphlets that we made,
Yes.
to give them to her.
No, yeah, they definitely should have them.
They should,
For sure.
they should fit, because they're, yeah.
Okay. All right, is there anything else that anybody want, that any of you members want to discuss or bring up? Or recommend? Charlotte? No?
I'm wondering now that the library's open. You've been saying that you took the word out for people, like maybe we could do one of those quarterly meetings, not under the Democratic. Party, but like we do those John Millington lectures and discussions. But that might be something that
Definitely.
we could do. And I might think, you know, for housing, we probably could get a pretty good turn.
I would hope. Especially since it's multifamily
Yeah.
housing, yeah,
So, yeah.
So.
okay, let's,
Work it too.
let me look into that.
That's a great idea, along those lines, I'm actually speaking at the Southbury.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
I am, about housing, this Saturday. I know, and it's funny, did I bring that information with me? But what I was gonna do, they asked me, because they, I don't know, if they have my name, but they have a man who's coming with a bunch of stats, and then they wanted somebody. To just from a town to talk about what they've been working on, so I was looking at Southbury's affordable housing plan. They have some really great data too, it's very interesting. And the group that invited me is the Saha. They're the ones who wrote that article in Voices from 2022 that we had
Yeah,
copied.
yeah,
Remember about looking for land, right? Anyway, they're doing I forget what the event is called, Cake and Housing or something, or.
where is
They're
it happening?
it's happening in Southbury, the flyers on Facebook, and I couldn't figure out.
Do you know where you're going?
Brown room,
Do you
like
know when you're
Southbury
going?
Library.
Oh, it's in the library?
Yep, it's in Southbury, that's what made me think of it.
Okay.
And, yeah, I have notes on that, so, share.
That's
I
the
think
same,
it's
this,
at
this
it's
coming
Saturday, I
Saturday.
think it's at 1 o'clock. Great. Anyway, the reason I was excited to go because I wanted to see how this went and I was gonna bring the, like, back to you to say, okay, this worked and this didn't. So there, you have to look at the flyer. It's not, there's like a cake, I don't know if they have a bakery like partnering with them or some kind of something to try to create a little bit of
Interest.
interest, but so.
People come for food.
Yes.
They like the cookies.
Think like maybe we can think of something creative. Yeah. So it's a talk that is, but there's also something else, that's kind of a draw.
However you market it, I think people come. Even if it's, a lot of, there were older people that came to our table who were interested in housing for their kids.
Yeah,
And there was a lot of discussion around how do they get their children back, and they want them to move back to the community. So I think that'll be.
That also,
Good.
I appreciate it's just easier, but so Oscar created the Facebook page for the Washington Community Housing Trust, which just went live. It had 1 follower, it's me. And we were actually today, I'll tell you too, because the Partnership for Strong Communities had an affordable housing summit yesterday and today. So today, when he was in my office, we were watching Senator Blumenthal speaking. It was very national and big policy stuff, so it was not as applicable. But anyway, so the plan was to then share and invite all of the commission members and the trust members and the community page to, so that they could follow it. And it'll give us a place to post facts. I was gonna have him just, he only has 4 more weeks, but he's had a lot of papers and tests, so he hasn't been in as often, but I wanted him to preload a bunch of stuff, like a link to the housing plan and a link to the Housing Trust website and just, a few things going on there. And he's gonna leave us the administrator information so that we can, I figured between everybody on the commission and everybody on the trust, we can maybe get something posted on occasion. Hopefully, Bill and Ted and Anne Marie said, go ahead, just do it, whatever.
okay, that's
But
good.
it's set up, well, I don't really know, but I asked him to set it up so that there are no comments for right now, so we don't have to monitor it, because apparently, housing can generate some pretty heated online discussion. And we didn't really want to, unless somebody wants to take that over and monitor that, I think. For now, it'll just be a place to,
Post things and then people can share it.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
We share with our friends, they can share it if they're interested.
So hopefully we'll try to build a little bit of a following, and then if there's an event, like a talk at the library, or actually hopefully by the public hearing for the PA 2129, that would be the kind of thing you
Oh,
want to let
definitely,
people know, hey, this is happening, tune into the hearing.
yeah, good. Okay, any other marketing? I mean, I think we should be going to some of the, different groups in town besides the library, maybe talk at the senior center, maybe we can get Jen to, set up something. One of their, a meeting, and we could show up and talk about. And also find out what maybe seniors or any community members, might have in mind. So I think I'll talk to Jen about that. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Any other suggestions?
I got a lead on talking with the Jewish group in town. They don't have a building or anything.
No,
But there is a organized congregation.
yeah, and where do they meet? Do they meet
I don't
anywhere?
know. I'm still striking out with
I know, New
Our
Preston.
Lady and Preston.
What's the other one? Oh, Our Lady, no, Our Lady.
Yeah.
I think Lions and Rotary might also be good ones,
Okay.
because they, have, right, at least for Rotary, because I know. It's lunch, they're always happy to have somebody come and speak and share the recommendtions.
When do they meet?
Second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 12:15.
And I don't know who in Lions. Anybody know anybody on Lions? I mean, I know.
They meet in Legion Hall though, and
Yeah.
I think it's posted over there.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Charlie, when I was, over at St. John's on Sunday, I talked quite a bit about, a book I read, called America's Frozen Neighborhoods. The author is a faculty member of the Yale Law School. And, he studies, Greater New Haven, the area around Austin, north of Austin, Texas,
Texas.
which is the fastest growing part of Texas. And also Silicon Valley. And then he has some conclusions at the end.
Do they,
And
are they
Charlie's
relevant
question,
to us?
well, he seems to take the point of view that he says back in 1923. Herbert Hoover was then the Secretary of Commerce for the Harding and Coolidge administrations, and he convened a committee that the Blue Ribbon Committee that really came up with the notion of zoning commissions locally, and that is where that movement is thought to have been born just about 100 years ago. And then he goes on to say, this has worked well in keeping
People out.
industrial pollution out of residential neighborhoods and yada, yada. But it's a blunt instrument as far as this housing problem. And we need to go back to the states to widen our reliance, not on local motivations so much as being a part of the state, which has a real problem. 89,000 people are without housing. 37,000 were evicted from their living last year.
And people are leaving, we're going up places.
42% are housing burdened, spending more than 30% on. So it's there, and if we had a little more feeling for our state and its challenges and problems, it would be a good thing for us locally.
Yeah,
I tried to make that case anyway.
okay. Sounds good. American Frozen Neighborhoods, and who's the author? Never mind. It's okay.
Judy, if I may, at the summit, one of the things that the commissioner said is every time the town came up with a new project, she was going to check. And it wasn't, I thought she was saying not so much check it off, it's done, but there's a check in it, okay? But she did towards the end say, the gravy train may stop. And really, the need substantially is in the urban communities. And they don't have a grand list that we have. So if we want something done, I think we have to rely on ourselves. And to Charlie's point, there probably is, nothing that we have to fear in some ways. But we rely on the fact that 8-30G has not been applied locally ever by a large scale developer. So
I mean, in our town,
in our town, or in a lot of Litchfield County, I mean, it's all.
right, yeah, yeah.
So, I guess if you're Tier 8-30G, maybe we don't have to worry. But I think really the focus should be on, there is the need. And we are still in a position where we can choose how the development occurs. And how we expand our communities, because all of a sudden, black swan moment, and magically there's a developer. And you're not happy with what they think is a good idea.
But shouldn't that be something that we should discuss when we begin marketing this?
Yeah,
To me, that's a consequence, maybe we're looking at consequences in terms of monetary or state's gonna come in. But the fact that developer could come in and do whatever they please and bypass all of the zoning regulations, and I think to me, that's a huge consequence for a small community.
And this is where usually people say, oh, you throw up X30G, it's a threat, it'll never happen, it hasn't happened. Well, it could
It
happen.
could happen.
And so it's better to be in a position of being able to make the decision.
Right.
Right. And the fact that the state is mandating this for every community now, eventually it's gonna happen. And so that to me should be a message, not.
Well-
But it should be a message.
I think that there are some other avenues too. I mean, I know that zoning more or less approved that new 52-room hotel on Wickham Drive. Well, where are they going to get their workers? I mean, there's a shortage already in town. Why isn't there a requirement that they devote a certain amount of the development money to affordable housing for their workers?
good
I mean,
thought.
that just doesn't make sense to me that we allow a development like that without asking them where they're going to get their workers and how the workers are going to be housed.
Yeah. Good thought. So maybe we need to bring that to the selectmen. or-
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to,
I mean, it's not really the purview of zoning to look at
No.
anything except for how the plan fits on the land within zoning laws. I mean, we don't get, most people don't think that has a good business plan, but that's not really our purview to say that.
But I'm
Like,
just saying,
But it's an interesting
but don't you think, Michelle, it's something that
process.
at least the town ought to be thinking about, is if you're going to have projects of that size that require a large amount of labor, not only for the construction, but for afterwards to maintain a 52-room hotel. I mean, how many people does the Mayflower hire? And how many of those people actually live in Washington? I'll bet the percentage is very small that actually live in Washington.
Yeah, and Glen Home Depot is a really good example because I think they use a large number of employees, and I remember Gary Fitzherbert saying about 2 out of 150 were able to afford to live here.
That's actually, yeah, that's current.
Oh, that's correct?
That's current, yeah, that was just said like 6
I heard
months
that
ago
too.
this summer, yeah.
Anyway, it's just a thought.
Yeah, and actually, well, yeah, the schools are the biggest employers and they all recognize the issue and would love to be part of the solution for housing. If there's a way. Was what they said, but we have to kind of think about that. Two of the schools are in the game of building housing, Rumsey and Frederick Gunn. They're Montessori, Region 12 and Glen Home, Deborah, so. Yeah, but it was interesting. We were talking about whether, because our zoning laws right now say that a nonprofit is allowed to build affordable homes. So we were wondering if that could be applied to the schools and could they use that clause in the zoning law to build it. However, they would have to then,
Open it to the community.
yeah.
That's what I don't.
And that's not really what they're looking for, and unfortunately, we discovered this with the Habitat Project. Is that if you have one teacher household qualifies for affordable housing. two-teacher households just goes above threshold of the income, just over that like 110 line or where we are now. And so we all know that there's still no housing for them, but it doesn't actually count as capital A.
But hopefully it's multifamily housing.
Yes, well, that should help. with the
We're just
middle
hoping with the middle.
We just get divorced, come on.
No problem.
Exactly.
Okay, so, the other thing was, we need to vote on whether or not we're gonna change the time of the meeting. To accommodate, Daryl, who I think would, you know, they have a lot to contribute since he is, you know, in the trade of building. He's an electrician. So, can somebody make a motion to, change the meeting, starting in January would be easiest, right? And we don't have to change the,
Yeah, it's been posted in the town, but we can certainly change, as long as we notice it, the December meeting.
okay, all
But,
right,
but it's easy enough to, you know, because in December we'll have to set the schedule for next.
okay. So anyway, can somebody make a motion to change that? Could you
I'll
make-
move.
Okay, Charlie, second by Henrietta. All in favor of changing our meeting time to 6:30?
I,
I,
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else?
So when are we gonna start?
I think we should start at December. Yeah. Can you take care of noticing that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Change on it.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to say, Chris?
Visitor?
Thank you very much. Okay, motion to adjourn. Somebody? Henrietta, second?
second.
All in favor of adjourning, thank you so much.